lakes that are 60 feet. But what you're going to want to do is when they start transitioning out of them shallower areas at 25 feet, they're going to start looking for these 30-foot mud flats, okay? And that's what I show on your depth chart. And to find these mud flats on a depth chart, I had a good question from a guy the other day. How do I know where a 30-foot mud flat is? You know, or even if the lake has mud flats. Lakes that have more of a sandy bottom or these gin clear lakes will have these silty mud flats on them. It's mostly silt, more so than mud. And the perch transition to these areas for food, okay? Their egg sacs are getting bigger, the females. The males are following these females around. I see them on camera all the time. They're following, they're just chasing them, they're waiting. They know something's going to start taking place here soon, so they're just following them around. But the females are feeding. And that's why you're catching so many of these big females in the wintertime. And you know, you hardly catch any males. Every fish you bring up, it's got a big belly on it, seems like it's a big female. Well, they gotta eat, okay? Because we catch perch, we'll start catching perch early winter, and you can fillet off the side of that perch, and off the ribs, there's meat there. When you start getting into like middle of February, that meat is gone, okay? That's what we're seeing. They're actually depleting it from their bodies because they need energy. These egg masses are getting big and they need energy to keep these egg masses going. You know, they're using a lot of energy. So what they're gonna do is them females is they're gonna try to find these 30-foot mud flats. And like I said, like a guy asked a question last night, what I consider a mud flat, when you guys are looking at them on a depth contour chart, look for a bigger basin area, like more round, that's a consistent level all the way across, okay? That's a consistent depth all the way across there. And then you'll see at the back end of this, it'll fall off into 65. But you got a big 30-foot area, okay? And you'll see that on some of these charts, if the lake has one, okay? And you're gonna wanna stay on there. These fish are cruising, looking for wigglers, and they're looking for these little crustaceans called the scud. And I've got, if you guys wanna know what they look like, I've got pictures on my phone to show you what they look like. It's a little, looks like a millipede. It's probably only 3/4 to a 1/2 inch long. And what happens is these scuds, they'll crawl around on that silt, and then they'll burrow a hole in the silt. And then what that perch does, and we see it every winter in this lake where we're catching these big perch here, we watch them on the camera, they're swimming like this. They're not swimming like this, like you think they would be. They're nose down. These big females are just cruising like this, nose down. And we see it all day long, and they'll go right across that mud flat where we're at, looking. And what they do is they look for that little hole in the silt, and they'll stop. Once they see a hole, they'll stop. And they shoot a little jet of water out of their mouth, and a puff of silt, and they go down and they grab that scud out of there. I watch them do it every year, all day. And like I say, these aqua views, if you don't have one, get one. I know they're expensive, but that thing has took what we know about fishing to a whole new level. I mean, it's just night and day. I've learned more from that aquaview in 2 years I've owned it than I've learned in 40 years of fishing. Just watching what these fish do. And once you know what they do, now I've got an idea, you know. Now I can go after them and see how they react to my baits and what baits they react to the most, you know. So I had just last year, we had a perch. It's just super fat. In fact, it's this perch right here. It's this perch right here. This fish cruised by us all day long. All morning long, that fish was cruising. And it was just nose down. I'm jigging away, and that fish, I'm hitting the sand, I'm spanking the mud, making a big cloud. It didn't even care. It just had a little male following it all day. And that fish would go away. We'd see all kinds of other perch swimming around. And then this fish would just come into the picture. He'd maybe be 40 feet that way or 20 feet this way. He's just never in line with my jig. It's like that thing had tunnel vision. So about, I don't know, 4 hours go by, I see her coming on the camera. And she comes, and she's right on a beeline for my jig, right in line with it. She's gonna run right into it. So what I do is I drop that jig, which was just a little RBM jig with a wiggler on it. Just a little 5mm or a 4mm. I dropped it in the silt, and I lifted it up, had a puff of silt come up. She locked right in on that puff of silt. Now she's on a beeline for it, and I just got her stopped. So I'm thinking, oh, there's no way this fish is going to bite this. I'm just, God, please bite it, please bite it. So I'm not moving it. I'm just leaving it in that silt. So that's why if you got one at the camera, you can never really tell what's going on down there. And I just puffed it again. She moved a little closer. Puffed it again, moved a little, but it's still in the silt. And I'm thinking, and she's just staring at it, staring at it, staring at it. It seemed like an hour, but I'm sure it was probably only 3 or 4 minutes. But I said, you know what? I'm sick of waiting. I'm just going to lift it up and see what she does. So I lifted it up out of there. She opened her mouth and sucked that jig right in. And you could have heard me all around that lake screaming when I caught that fish. I mean, it was just crazy. It was just, I mean, I caught bigger perch, but it was all day watching that fish, you know what I mean? Swimming by, never getting a chance. But if I can tell you anything about that, is just when you're perch fishing, spank that mud. Get your jig down in there and make a dust cloud, make a scene, make some noise. And it gets them to come to you. And they're just eating them scuds out of that sand, or out of that silt. And their bellies are full of wigglers and whatever they find, you know, they're sucking it off that silt. But that's a good. Just always remember to just make some noise and make some noise down there when you're perch fishing. Do I have any walleye? Yes, sir. They're probably, the ones we fish in that lake are probably, the one's got to be 2.5 acres big. It's big. 3 acres probably. And then we have smaller ones that we fish. And we have bigger ones that we fish. That lake's like an underwater mountain range. And that's why it takes forever to freeze. We can't get on it. Long Lake in Traverse City. It's just, or an interlock in there. It's a great lake to fish. It's just hard to get on in the winter. But we fish it a lot in summer when I'm home. In the month of August is right hot on that lake. But does anybody jig fish for walleyes in here? We got any jig fishermen? Nice. I didn't have but one last night in that packed house last night, but I do want to show you guys something. What we do with jigs. You guys are familiar, I'm sure, with buckshot jigs. Yep. Okay. Now, do you guys use the buckshot jig just the way it comes in the package, or do you trick it out a little bit? Standard? Okay. I'll show you a little trick that we use with these buckshots. We take these buckshot jigs and we take everything off of it, the hook, the treble hook, and we go right to, and I showed Larry, my buddy Larry, this we're up in Lake of the Woods, and this is what we were jigging up them big walleyes. We're taking that buckshot jig and we're taking that hook off. Take that treble right off of there. Get rid of it. Take yourself like a number 6 octopus gamakatsu and a piece of 6 fluorocarbon about that long. I don't know if you guys can see that. But put your bait on this hook dangling below it. You'll increase your fishing catch I'm telling you, you'll double it. Because it's a single hook. A number 6 Gamakatsu single hook. Put a tagline on it, okay? Get it down there. You know, that one might be a little long, but sometimes they're finicky and you want it this long. I made some longer ones and shorter ones, but. And then put your minnow in there.
Yeah, for jigging?
Yep, jigging for walleyes. And they will hit that, or they won't hit all that. They'll see this, they'll see the big buckshot. And I don't know if you've ever, you're jigging them up, and all of a sudden they just cut off. They stop chasing it, and they don't want to bite it. Use this, and I'm telling you. And if you can't get clipped, and I start this out by taking a blue and pitching it in half and putting the meat on the hook and leave the tail dangle. That's the first presentation I give them, okay? If they won't hit that way, change it up. Put the other half on. Hook the half with the head in the eyeballs or the lips and jig it that way. If that don't work, put the whole minnow on, hook it behind the dorsal fin like you normally would for a tip-up or something like that, and then try it that way. And I'm telling you, it's like night and day. Because we fish these buckshot jigs, and I'm not saying they don't work completely, because I've caught fish on them. But this, when they get finicky, this is what you want to go to. When the dog days of winter hit, and they don't want to bite nothing, this is what you want to go to, okay? Put that little tagline on, that little dropper line. Make sure it's 6 and make sure it's fluorocarbon. Okay? Even go to a 4. Even go to 4-pound fluorocarbon. I don't like to do that with walleyes because sometimes that little thing will break.